Alright, well here we are back for my commentary on my cruiser build part 3. You can see here I'm just putting in a lamp system. This is that experimental system that I was telling you guys about where it was going to use regulators to try to give a more consistent output for the power of the laser. The idea was to try to make something that would be pretty good against crams. The only thing this ship would really be very vulnerable to would probably APS and crams. Even then it'd have a hard time trying to get through the thick armor. But yeah, that's one of the sadder things from the depths that's been happening lately is the active defensives have kind of all gone to crap for the sake of balance, and I don't quite understand why. I mean, who the hell are these people saying that you don't have the right to make a ship that's invulnerable? I mean, why the hell do they care? It's a single-player game. If they don't like it, don't build it. Simple as that. But anyway. Now we're just going to try to armor this thing up. I think I just decided to put in some oblique panels here. Only thing that probably really be getting to this would be Hesh and heat, I figure. So yeah, this would probably be fairly adequate protection against that. Considering the spall liner's made of wood, yeah. Okay, it looks like putting in some ACBs here. Don't quite remember what these are for. Looks like I'm setting up... Okay, yeah, the last video I mentioned this was for setting up the fuel engines to, or the larger fuel engines to come online whenever there's an enemy present. For the most part, I wanted those engines off because the engines that I put in the last episode, those were basically just for like cruising and out of battle and charging batteries. They're a lot more efficient than these. And just trying to go and fill in all the available spaces with fuel. Be amazed at all the little spots that you can find where you can actually put crap like that. It looks like I'm putting some more batteries in. I'm probably going to have to change their output on these as well. I think I decided that the batteries were a bit too small and expanded them a bit more. Nope. I was just trying to make sure that the battery output would match what the fuel engines were doing. And there's that issue where the batteries don't seem like they're connecting again. Very annoying. Yeah, the batteries needed to be expanded after all, I guess. Oh yeah, this part I remember. I accidentally hit the fill key. So now I'm having to go through and try to get rid of all those batteries that were misplaced. I was trying to get that bank of batteries roughly the same size as the last set. And here we are just setting the batteries up. Basically, like I mentioned earlier, we want the output of the batteries to match what the cruising engines are going to do. Looks like I'm going for a prefab right now of the LAM system that I just created earlier. And we're going to try to make a few banks of LAMs to put in the front of the ship. Not quite sure why I'm pausing here. Probably just trying to decide on what kind of material I'm going to use, but I end up going with the appliques again, I think. I might be chatting with someone. Thankfully that pause doesn't last very long. There we go. Putting some surge protectors in. Try to protect the batteries from EMP strikes. I decided that I need to take out the placeholders for the upper main turrets. And I'm just kind of building a little platform for the upper mains to sit on. I think I end up using that space for ammo storage or ammo processor storage and material storage. I just kind of do the same thing here with the rear one. Now I'm just going to cut the heads off the turret just to sever the turret cap. I'm going to probably raise the neck up by like about 4 meters, it looks like, so they can super fire over the turrets in the front. Some nice big recoil absorbers. There we go. And now I'm probably going to try to get a prefab of one of the main turrets here. Awesome. Then we got to switch to the sub-object, plop the turret cap back down, there we go. And we're gonna, looks like we're going to do some armoring of the turret well here. Pretty much the same way that we did the lower guns. putting in the decking around the turret neck. And now we're going to armor up this other one here in the back. And here we go, severing this turret neck. Just trying to make sure that they're going to be the same height. And then we put the turret cap back on it. Start armoring up the neck. And we're going to grab a prefab of that. And put it on the turret in the back. Going to expand the decking around it. I think, yeah, just putting a air pump down there. There we go. And now trying to do a superstructure here. I think this is about when I realized that the guns were going to be too close together, like I mentioned in the last video. I'm like, nah, this is going to look like crap. These are too close. And I also had to make I kind of had to make a new turret because, well, it needed to be higher so it would super fire over the one in front of it. So I just extended the neck a bit, slapped the turret cap back on it. I guess I haven't gotten to that point where I realized that that was way too close for the turrets to be together. It's kind of hard to remember what happened when trying to do this post commentary here. But I realize that armor is going to be way too thin for that turret neck. I wanted to get at least 2 layers. So yeah, put down the mirror line again. Get rid of the turret. Get rid of all that heavy armor. There we go. And we armor it back up. I know those will probably be pretty vulnerable to Hesh and heat, but I'm not too worried about them because I designed them to be fairly cheap. But I've just tried to come up with a kind of an armoring scheme here that didn't look like crap. There we go. It's not perfect, but it's acceptable. Besides, who the hell wants perfect? Perfect is boring. And we do the same thing with the turrets in the rear. Put down the new turrets. I think it might have been about this point where I realized I probably need to put in the local weapon controllers. And I put them down in that cavity where I had all the ammunition stored. I thought it'd probably be best to armor them up a little because if that ammunition goes, they would easily take the local weapon controllers with them. In a lot of cases, I usually try to put the local weapon controllers on the turret, just for simplicity's sake, because then you can just spam out turrets and not have to worry too much about the weapon controller placement. But since those things are just so tiny, there wasn't really a whole lot of room to place it. Something like the main guns, you got tons of room to hide stuff like that, but not so much here. Armor up those ones too. I'll go back and try to fill the empty spaces with as much ammo as I can. Thought I'd just add a little bit more armor to that turret. That Barbetta is probably going to end up taking a lot of punishment, so I want to make sure it stays alive, for lack of a better way to describe it. Just doing some deck work here, trying to make it all nice and purty like. I'm just doing some more work on the superstructure here. I think I decided to go back and change that to a light alloy. I usually like to do my superstructures in light alloy. Yeah, there we go, switching it over to that. Reason being is you want the bulk of your weight to be focused towards the bottom of your ship for stability. And with light alloy, you can't beat the weight. Not quite sure why I spun that thing back in. Oh yeah, I'm trying to come up with places to put the anti-aircraft guns. Or at least I will here in a moment. These anti-aircraft guns are going to pull double duty. They're going to attack enemy aircraft, and they're also going to be used to attack missiles. They're kind of a poor man's sea whiz. Like, I don't see them being too great at it, but I figure every little bit's going to help. I'm trying to armor these bad boys up a little. Most of the things sitting high on the deck like this are going to be pretty vulnerable. So that's why you go a little cray-cray on the armor here. You probably won't see a lot of people giving this much attention to tertiary guns. There we go. And just armoring them up a little bit more. I just kind of want to armor them up in a fashion where if the turret does go up, it won't take very much with it, and the explosion for the most part will be contained. Here I am trying to line up the pattern on the wood textures again. Here we are, just doing a little speed test. Looking pretty good. 19 meters a second for a build like this is pretty respectable. It wouldn't be too hard to push it up to 20 meters a second. Fun, to be honest. It just takes some fuckery on my part, but eh. Looks like I'm building a some shells here. Either the yeah, these are going to be the hash ones that go into the secondaries. No, maybe they're not. Nope, these are the flak rounds. Okay. There we go. I'm trying to see if I could somehow make it where it would fit a little bit better and try to get a little bit more speed out of it, but yeah. I usually like to get them up as close to 400 as I can. 450 is probably actually most optimum if you want to hit a target. Just giving the CWIS weapon controllers just a little bit of armoring, setting them up. Looks like those are all good to go. Trying to do some decorative stuff here. Oh, looks like I am trying to get a rough idea of what I'd like to do for the bridge. I'm putting some windows in. Those will probably change later on. Glass is stupidly vulnerable in this game, and it's just more or less a decorative thing. It does work as a very good spall liner, but I decided to stick with the wood on this because the wood has better buoyancy properties. However, I think the glass and wood pretty much, other than the buoyancy, they pretty much have about the same stats. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. Looks like I'm looking for my quad 60mm turret. Oh, no. I'm looking for a smokestack. This is what I use on the Swedish Pagan. Granted, it's probably a little bit on the big side right now. I'll look for the mimic block and shrink that down a little bit. Yeah, it's like the easiest way to do a funnel. Ends up looking pretty good, I think. And just putting in some plates to look at make it look like she's got a little bit of railing back there. I think I put like a quad 60mm autocannon turret on top of there, like I use on the Midway. Something that you won't get to see on here is I even put like some like a anti-missile system on top of there as well. So nothing too crazy. It's like it looks kind of like a CRAM and essentially functions the same way. CRAM is kind of like CWIS, except it uses anti-missile missiles instead of just a big minigun. Looks like I'm probably going to set up the LAM system. I have to do a little back and forth on this part because I'm just trying to figure out where would be the best, or how would be the best way to run this. I think I decided to move that column just a little bit more forward. Yeah. And now for some semblance of a sensor tower, or a sensor mast, I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. I decided to move the lambs forward just a wee bit. And I think, yeah, I put another lamb system right about here. Usually you want to put a lamb system fairly high up. And it looks like I'm trying to put in put the top of the sensor mast together. Making it nice and wide. There we go. Not quite sure why I'm pausing again right here, but I'm sure I'll get back to it in a moment. Come on, you lazy fuck. Get back to work. There you go. Uh-huh. Awesome. Now just putting in the sensors. Very good. The main turrets actually have a bunch of range finding and visual sensors on them too, so there's quite a bit of redundancy in this build actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. I think I decided to go back and put in some passive radar systems for detecting missiles. Now we're doing the top of the sensor mast. Just trying to round off things just a little bit. And I think I end up putting a retroflective sensor and an active radar. Later on I find out that I don't have enough processing power for all the sensor systems, and I go back and add those later. Those will be done off camera. And once again, just trying to run some lambs. Looks like I'm trying to get it up to the lambs up in the sensor mast. Yeah. And just want to give all those transceivers some protection there, albeit a little. And then just right now, it looks like I'm just trying to do some decorative stuff here with the bridge. I always like using the Fortress controller to make it look like it's a throttle, but I never really have a good idea where to put it. So I just kind of slap it down there. I think I add some additional sensors up here. Yes. Like some IR camera, or some IR gimbal cameras. And I just wanted to do some decorative stuff here again, just putting in one of those fancy looking windows. Just trying to see how she looks. Doing some weapons testing here. It's about this time I realized that I probably need to put in some anti-torpedo weapons. Or maybe not. Oh, no, here we go. No, actually we're doing something else it looks like. Yeah, now I remember. We're putting in some roll thrusters. Alright, I'm just going to armor those up a bit. And I thought maybe I want to run the armoring all the way down the length of the ship, and then I decided against it. I think it was about the time where iMark3 and Matey were talking to me on Discord while they were watching a stream of me build this thing. Just giving the propellers just a little bit more armor. These are kind of important, otherwise the ship's gonna roll like hell whenever the guns are firing. And it looks like now I'm setting up the anti-torpedo system. I think I'm going to retry this because I think it's too wide, yeah. And passive sonar to pick up the torpedoes. I'm just trying to cut down on the drag and make this look nice down here. We want those anti-torpedo defenses to go out and search for enemy torpedoes. That's why I set it to 1,000 meters. Now we're just going to grab a prefab of this thing. And we're just going to slap it back there under the rear mains. Again, not quite sure why I paused there. Maybe I ran to the bathroom or something. Here I'm trying to use an AI PID, but for some reason it just does not work out for me. So later on I'm like, fucking just go with the general PID. Yeah, she's still rolling like crazy when she's firing. And she capsizes. And it looks like we got her stabilized while firing. It's excellent. Looks like we're testing her out against a plunderer. Looks like the LAM system handles the crams okay-ish. I think as the battle drags on, maybe like one or two might slip through, especially when we go to fight the crossbones here. Yeah. But she's a big girl, she can take the damage. It looks like Primo Victoria is just trying to get her distance. I don't think I have her firing restrictions set up at this moment. So the ship's most likely shooting itself in all kinds of places. Here we go, put in some resource storage. And we're going to slap a bunch of ammo processors down here. Not really worried about those turrets going up because they do have ejector, with the emergency ejector fuses. So, yeah, those turrets probably won't ever explode. I'm just setting up the ACBs that'll control the ammo processors. Probably the most widely used one there is out there for a condition is enemy within 5,000 meters. It's good for a lot of things, like setting up shields, things like that. Looks like she's still moving along at a pretty good pace. Just kind of admiring my work. I think I'm putting in some additional sensors here. I remember when they first did the patch for the sensors here, and I wasn't quite sure how to approach it because I thought the munition warners were probably going to need the processing cards as well. Thankfully, they don't, but yeah, I was just spamming the hell out of processing cards after that happened because I wasn't quite sure how the mechanics of it worked. Yeah, just trying to go for a lot of redundancy here because these things are pretty weak and they'll get shot off pretty regularly. I just like to armor them up a little bit because if they get knocked out, then the explosive damage is just going to travel down the hole where the sensors used to be and start messing things up on the inside of the ship. Part of me wonders if I should try to refit Swedish Pagan for the campaign. I mean, not Swedish Pagan, but Corollas Rex. It's just that I think that would take a whole hell of a lot of work. But she's a damn fine ship, though. At least she was when I built her. A crazy ass LAM system before they nerfed it all to hell was able to take out an entire volley from singularities. Not an easy feat, mind you. Again, balance bullshit. If I want to make an impenetrable LAM system, I should have every right to do it. I'm sorry. It's as simple as that to me. Besides, the cost that goes into said land system is pretty insane. I mean, Corollas Rex, I think, was about 1.5 million resources. I mean, come on. If I'm willing to pay the premium, I should be able to have whatever the hell system I want. Not quite sure what I paused again right there, but whatever. Now, looks like we're just setting up the firing restrictions here. That process is just a pain in the ass. If they just made the damn failsafes work like they intend to work, then there would be almost no reason to be doing this. But turrets probably would still get hung up on the uncertain parts of the ship when they go to turn to try to fire at an enemy, so maybe it'd still be necessary. I don't know. I think at some point I might go back and re-Tetris some of those turrets because I think I could probably do them just a wee bit better, but you've seen how she does against the bulwark while I'm setting up my weapon systems here a little bit more. This part of the build is mostly just like just some fine tuning, things like that. The build for the most part is done. It looks like she's landing some pretty good hits though on that bulwark out there. Even though it's got lambs and shields, she could still get through that stuff and do some hellaciously good damage. I think her mains are getting about maybe 75 rounds a minute per turret. I'll let you all do the math on how many rounds a minute total that is. Actually, I think that's probably about 300. And there again is that annoying part about the bulwarks is that they'll sink below the water line, and you have to torpedo them. Oh, not quite there yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. I think it might be about this part where I realize that maybe I need to check my AI settings. Yeah. Just kind of looking things over here. She ends up getting pretty good shields. Strength 5, butterfly shields all round. Except like the extremities, like the very front and rear of the ship, those are strength 4. Also in the upper parts of the superstructure, I think those are 4s, but her vitals are covered with the strength 5 shields. Strength 5 is usually about where you get to the point where you can bounce crams if we really want to. And I think we're done here. Well, I'd like to thank you all for watching. This has been Dama82. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have yourselves a hell of a day, and keep your hammer high. Later.